But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Let's begin it.
Number ZZ9 plural Z alpha. Number ZZ9. I said I've never seen such hideousness in all my life.
There's a lot of this,
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio. Radio with bite.
But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
All the second stage tanks now pressurized. Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I'm a banker, not a glamour boy.
Oh, I love you, Adam, Alex, Peter, Brian, whatever your name is.
HBR Talk with Hannah Wallen. Most of our listeners have heard at least some version of the story of the Midas touch at least once in their lives. King Midas is such a familiar character that he's parodied in advertising with the expectation that everyone watching will understand the reference. According to legend, as a reward for his kindness to Silenus the satyr, a companion of Bacchus, Midas was given a single wish and asked that everything he touched be turned to gold. At first he was thrilled with the result and marveled over the transformation he could cause, but when food he wanted to eat also turned to gold, he realized his choice had been poorly thought out. He cried out to Bacchus to restore him to normal, was given a method of purification to follow, and cleansed himself of what he'd come to recognize as a curse. Lesson learned, gold obsession cured. When this myth is taught to students, it's generally offered as a cautionary tale to communicate the short-sightedness of developing a narrow fixation on wealth. But that is, in and of itself, a bit of a short-sighted lesson plan. The story is not just condemnation of greed, but an illustration of why and how it is harmful to the greedy individual. King Midas did not simply learn that his fixation was superficial. He learned that gold was by far not the only thing in his life that he valued. Pursuing it to the exclusion of all other things or conditions would prevent him from being able to engage with anything at all, much less enjoy it, no matter how wanted or cherished it might be. In this way, his obsessive desire became the ultimate form of self-deprivation. What if Midas's condition had been psychological rather than metaphysical? He'd awakened one day to find not that everything he touched turned to gold, but that unless it was gold, nothing in the world could possibly engage his interest. Would the outcome be any different? No, and yes. He would still starve if the condition wasn't reversed, but not because an involuntary metamorphosis would deprive him of access to real food. His appetite being one-dimensional, his starvation would be caused by a lack of interest in any food. He might even fail to recognize his situation, excusing his anhedonia by projecting poor quality or poisonous nature onto the food without ever having tasted it. After all, if it's not gold, how good could it be? How would a person with such a psychological condition be able to relate to other people? Might the same lack of interest apply? Might elements of good character become invisible to the individual? Would they even be important if they were not related to the individual's wealth? Might finding camaraderie and companionship become impossible? Would the condition even allow for the individual to care? What if we were talking about a woman trying to reconcile this condition with the expectations involved in dating? How would she even approach the idea? Might severely limiting the scope of characteristics she may value in a male partner lead to an inability to value men at all, much less love any man? If expected to date while unable to value or love her partner, what kind of attitude might one develop to fill that void? What excuses might one come up with for one's resulting misanthropic nature? I'm not shallow. They're just worthless. Would she even know that she's alone? Last week, HBR Talk began going over a listicle of talking points from the gold digger forum FemaleDatingStrategy.com. We saw how the writer externalized her own foibles by inventing bad advice by which to rationalize her wrong assumptions about men and dating. This week we will continue to trudge through some more of that post and unpack the baggage she loaded into each item, as many as we can squeeze into one episode. How far do you think we can get? To find out, you can tune in to the YouTube live stream on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, or find other listening options on honeybadgerbrigade.com. Oddly enough, it will stop on the computer that I was running it on, but it didn't stop on the laptop. That's interesting.
A new
technical difficulty has been born.
A new Pokemon for the
what the ever fucking fuck. All right, guys.
The never-ending list of technical difficulties.
Hello and welcome to HBR Talk 204. Female pickup artist dating advice is even worse than we expected. We expected it to be pretty bad, so that's just like that's really sad.
We thought we got to the bottom.
We thought we got there. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
There was more.
And there was more. And so, I am your host, Hannah Wallen, here with Nonsense Annihilator Lauren B. and Badger-in-Chief Allison Tiemann, to once again embark on judging the judgment of Her Most Entitled Highness's assertions about men. Mm-hmm. But first, we gotta do what we gotta do. Honey Badger Radio has a ton of thought-provoking discussions, and those thoughts are getting more provoked every day as we discuss important topics. This ought to provoke the hell out of them. We stream on multiple platforms. The only way the thought police can affect us is to hide our work. To find it all without political censorship and without having to wade through a lot of social justice ideologues baloney, you'll have to get that information from us. You want to hear from us more than you hear from them? Head on over to honeybadgerbrigade.com. Every show is featured on honeybadgerbrigade.com along with some great articles on a variety of topics, so head on over and check it out. We can't make YouTube give us fair treatment, but we can pick up their slack by bypassing the slackers altogether. And we can't stop corporate entities from engaging in political discrimination to prevent people like us from funding our efforts. But we can provide you an alternate way to support our work. That's why feedthebadger.com is the most stable way to help us out. Feed the Badger provides a way to fund our efforts without funding politically correct censorship. So remember, folks, information is power. We have it, they hate it. If you want it, you got to go to honeybadgerbrigade.com and check out the latest feed from the Badgers, and feed the Badger to help make it possible for us to share the news and analysis you come to HBR to hear. Last week we got through 11 of the claims in the FDS listicle, 37 lies you were taught about men. Numbers 1 through 10 and 14.
I can't imagine how we got that far, but we did it.
We did it. We did it. Just when I finally got my boots clean, we're wading in again. Beginning with the talking point number 11, and boy is it loaded. So are we ready to get messy?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. So talking point number 11. Slutty girls never get good guys. Only perfect women get good men. This is we are supposedly like now. When were you guys told by anybody that slutty girls never get good guys? Only perfect women get good men.
I was never told that. I was never told that. Okay, but again, there's so much context missing from here, and this is so subjective. Like, what do you think a slutty girl is? Is it just someone who puts out? Not necessarily. And what is a perfect woman?
That's an especially good question.
Yeah, I have yet to meet one of those. So, where are you coming from? And again, what the type of good guy that both of those women would call a good guy is not necessarily the same type of man. So again, who are you? Where are you coming from? And what is it that you're trying to achieve here? You know what I mean? Do you want to just be a hoe and expect to find a man that's willing to marry you? Your chances are slim. But hey, do you?
Well, what I don't understand is, do these women want men, or do they not need no man?
Yeah, they don't even know.
Are they strong and independent?
Yeah, but
the world will never know.
The world will never know. Well, first of all, this is one of the things that really bakes my noodle about these, and we've gone through a lot of this. They don't just give advice to women; they give advice to men, which is terrible. When these. Then it's usually a feminist woman, I have to say. When these women give advice to men, I don't know if the rules girls were feminist. I don't think they were, but whatever. It's like you read that advice and you're like, yeah, this is really good advice. Guys, do everything opposite on this list so you can avoid these women completely in your life. But when they give this stuff, it's like they offload so much of their emotional baggage and needs onto men, and they think that that's empowerment and independence, and it's like, no, that isn't. It isn't. That's dependency. It's like, okay, slutty girls never get good guys. Well, yeah, in my experience, women who are quote unquote slutty, which I don't know what that means, but whatever, I guess. To be honest, I think it's something that's more often applied by women to other women. They can get good guys if they're decent people. If their sluttiness isn't, I don't know, an indication of being villainous of some sort. But the other thing is that I think the people who end up in a better position relationship-wise find someone and then stick with them, which is why they don't end up having the huge numbers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that would make sense. That would make sense.
Sometimes mistakes happen, yeah. Or sometimes you get a girl that just really, really, really likes sex. And I'm not going to say that woman can't be in a relationship. She might not be in a relationship with Mr. What is it, Grey? 50 Shades of Grey?
Yeah.
That guy, although I don't know why any woman in the world would want him. But anyway, Apparently a lot of them do. So, she might not get that guy, but what are you aiming for? If you want to be slutty, isn't a teacher, a substitute teacher good enough? Or like a janitor or like a truck driver? What's wrong with that?
Right.
Maybe you won't get Louis the 14th who wants a virginal princess to impregnate to carry his male line, but you could get somebody decent. Who knows?
See, that's the thing. This is interesting. What's interesting to me is, so these women have expressed that they value wealth in a man. And this is like they're looking for what they call high value men, because if we're talking about, this is femaledatingstrategy.com. So this is a gold digger forum. It is flat out, there's no sugarcoating it. It's a gold digger forum, right? That is their goal. They want to marry rich men. That's what they decide how high value means, right? And they know that men value loyalty and trustworthiness in women. So the concept of slut shaming is a complaint that men should not complain about women being disloyal or untrustworthy. That's the bottom line on that. That's what that complaint is. So what she's basically arguing here is this idea that girls who are disloyal, and I'm not saying that actually being slutty means you're always disloyal. If you're in a relationship with a guy who wants to be in an open relationship and wants to do all of the partying and swinging and all of that stuff that goes with that, then that's not being disloyal. You guys have a different relationship than the average person does. But if you're in a relationship with somebody who wants to be monogamous, then it's not fair to that person to ask them to tolerate sluttiness in response to monogamy, right? So this is where these women are basically saying they don't have to be what the men they're looking for would consider to be high quality women, high value women, in order to merit a relationship with a high value man. Whatever they've determined my opinion on what makes a person a high value person of either sex is very, very different from theirs. Like most people I consider to be pretty valuable. And then if somebody happens to have excellent character and be particularly fun to be around, be kind and things like that, gentle, that person might strike me as being even more valuable, but my the average value of a human being is pretty damn high to begin with. So I don't have a lot in common with these women. Yeah. But in terms of their standards, they are basically saying I get to hold you to this standard, but you don't get to hold me to any standard.
Yeah. That's something I pointed out before, is that they want a high value man, but they want a man who's high value but doesn't have the ability to vet who he chooses, or doesn't have the right to vet who. And it's not going to happen for you. That's like full stop. Female dating strategy is pointless. And the thing is that, I would have maybe less sympathy for incels if they really were the gender inverse of this, in which they were all talking about, well, I'll never get a supermodel. Well, there's 12 supermodels in like the world. So no, you're not. That's not going to happen. But that's not the way that I've seen a lot of incels talk. So it's more like they're completely cut out entirely from dating and relationships. And there's more difficulties to that even beyond that. But this is not the same thing. Like, these women want to have a man who's high value but has no ability to make any kind or expect anything from his partner. That's not going to happen for you. I mean, I'll come right out and say, if a man is able to make millions and millions of dollars, why shouldn't he expect a virginal bride?
Right.
Well, and how would you expect to meet a man who makes millions and millions of dollars, who doesn't have a habit of having high expectations for the people he allows in his life anyway?
Yeah, you're not going to get Elon Musk okay? Yeah, or if that's really high up, I don't know. You're not going to get this man if you don't have the qualities that what you consider to be high value men want. Okay. Here's the other hilarious thing. I mean, it was like maybe 100 years ago. This whole idea was this is not the way that people conducted courtship many generations ago.
Mm-mm.
Been many generations ago, a woman would find a man who had qualities that seemed likely, partner with him, and they would together build something of worth. They're expecting these men right out of the gate to have built everything they need to attract a woman, have absolutely no need for a woman, but at the same time need a woman so badly that they require her to have bring nothing to the table. Like, what do you think the world is, lady? Like, that doesn't exist. I know you want to date unicorns, but unicorns don't exist.
No.
They just
what's
don't.
interesting is the early legends, if I understood them right, unicorns would lure virgins into the woods and then kill them and eat them.
Okay.
So,
maybe we don't want unicorns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I realized there weren't unicorns when I was like, what, 8?
Yeah.
In the world? It was a
It's
horrible
maybe
moment.
not such a bad thing that they don't really exist.
How old is this woman? 38? And she still thinks they exist?
Yeah, basically.
Oh, man.
So I was just a quick aside. I was watching just before the show, actually. I don't know if anybody has seen the movie, but it's Think Like a Man. And it's basically based around Steve Harvey's book, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, right? And so it goes through all the different scenarios and whatever. So the high value woman, right? This chick who she has a 6-figure salary, she drives a Mercedes, blah 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 blah. Of course, ironically, her name is Lauren. Gotta point that out. So she's dating this guy, and he doesn't make anywhere near the kind of money that she would expect, and she has sex with him, blah 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 blah, makes a connection with the guy, and then she reads this book, and she's like, it gets into her head that she deserves better. So she finds this high value man, right? And so they're sitting at dinner, and he's talking about all of his accomplishments, and he's just going on, and she's just sitting there staring off into space like, what is this? And even these high value, even if you are a high value woman and you want this man that's got more than you do, he's got to have this, got to have that. Is that necessarily what you want? Because you know what I mean? Like,
here's the thing: he's not going to be as supportive as the other guy, right?
Right.
And he might not be as fun,
right? And he spent so much of his time attaining his value. He ain't got time to listen or care about what you got going on. You know what I mean? So he's not going to bring that type of fulfillment to your life. So it's just these women. I swear to God, they don't need men. They need fucking therapists.
The dumb thing is, these women want to focus on those kind of guys, right? Because of what they have. But it never occurs to them that a relationship with someone you have nothing in common with and you're only with because you want what he has is not very exciting.
Right.
Like, I have some awesome conversations with my husband about things that we are planning to do in our future, as, like, we're empty nesters now, we're grandparents now, we don't always want to live in the apartment we live in, and we've got things that we want to do. I may not do the job I do forever because it's the type of labor that I do involves another person physically depending on my strength for movement, and so that's not something that you can just do indefinitely into your old age. But I have no plans to retire from working. I will probably work until I physically can't do it anymore, because I like to work. But in any case, So, like, we talk about things, what kind of things, what's next? What projects can we do next? What can we build together? What can we make our life like 10 years from now and stuff? And we're excited about doing the same things. And we have things that are separate from each other too, but we have enough of a common set of interests that we can plan, we could plan to do these things in the future together and build a new life in retirement, from parenting that, isn't a retired sit around and eat bonbons kind of life, and be happy about it. And I think if you were, say, we use the example of Elon Musk. Somebody decides, I want to be with a guy like Elon Musk because he's rich. Well, if you're not excited about what he does for a living, if you're not excited about his projects and you're not interested in those kinds of things, and you're not doing things that are similar enough, or that are things that he that he might find exciting about you enough, even if they're not the same things, that you guys could talk about. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. This is what we're going to do together. This is a great plan for the future. And, imagine if we get to do this or that. If you don't have that, your relationship is going to suck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would be like hell. You get together with someone and you have to be in the house with that person every day, and you sleep in the same bed with that person, and you have, jack all in common. Like, why would you do that to yourself? Why would you do that to somebody you profess to love?
Yeah, well, this list would be better titled "Women: How to Shoot Yourself in the Foot While Dating."
Bigly.
But I have a question for you, Lauren. Was there a happy ending to that woman, or did she just ruin her life for nothing?
No, they did get back together. What she did was she humbled herself. She went back and she apologized. And
wow.
Yeah, but of course, this is the movie, so it's fiction.
Yeah, but here's the thing, like, it's often really difficult to have two A-type people, like true massive A-type people in one relationship.
Yeah.
It's generally, an A-type person at least needs an like an A- type person who can relax.
Yeah.
Otherwise they're both like two racehorses going in opposite directions trying to pull a cart.
Yeah, it
just doesn't work.
It's always a competition. It's always a one-uppance, and who the hell wants to live like that? You're supposed to be a partner with your partner, not
some people. Yeah, it's like some people, what they bring to a partnership isn't necessarily achievement, but kindness and thoughtfulness, and making sure that you have your coffee in the morning, and you get the exercise you need to get, and that you have the food that you need to eat to keep yourself going. Some people are caretakers more than achievers. And often it's really hard to have two massive achievers in a relationship without it just not being a relationship. And that doesn't mean you can't, but at some point, somebody has to stop and be like, oh, well, how do I take care of my partner if he or she is under stress? And it's, doesn't sound like she found a guy that really fit her lifestyle, even though he was the one that she was said to need. But that's the other thing. Like, when they talk about high value men, what that says to me, and I know I said we should probably get on to the next one. What that says to me is they don't know what the hell they want. They just go with what they're told to want, which means they're never going to be happy. And also, these women don't like men, so why they want one in their life is beyond me. But we should probably move on to the next item.
This actually, what you're saying there actually relates to the next point, which is if you don't have sex right away with a high-value man, you'll lose him because of what you won't do. Because what you won't do, another girl will. So here she said, slutty girls never get good guys. Only perfect women get good men. But then if you don't have sex right away with your high-value man, you'll lose him because what you won't do, another girl will. She's contradicting herself pretty bad there. And of course, we just established what she thinks a high-value man is. But clearly, if he's not smart enough to figure out that a woman who is a little more reserved might be more intriguing than a woman who just jumps into bed with him immediately, maybe he's not what she's looking for after all.
Yeah, it really disturbs me because these women, Jesus Christ, like, maybe he just don't like you. Maybe you're loud. Maybe you're boisterous in a way that he doesn't appreciate. Maybe you're not socially, like, presentable. Maybe it's just something else about you that he doesn't like. It doesn't have to be that you did or didn't have sex with him the first time you met him. That has really nothing to do with the way a man thinks. If you are someone that he appreciates and he finds something valuable in you, then he'll stay. You know what I mean? He won't just toss you off. He won't just sleep around unless you're just playing a game with him. Because let's be honest, if you're not a virgin, then you withholding sex from a man, it kind of doesn't really wash. If you really want to be with him, if you want to form a relationship with him, then maybe you might want to not be so stuffy and stodgy. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't necessarily mean that to be the exact polar opposite is gonna keep anyone around. You know what I mean? Like, it's
yeah, I know what you mean. And also, men are different. They probably go at different speeds. Like, this is assuming every man is sort of the same sexually and wants to go at the same speeds. Okay, I have an anecdote from one of the innumerable stupid female-focused forums, which really should be recalled "How to Destroy Your Life" by listening to us, ladies, on Reddit. Like XY. What happened to XY? I guess it was replaced by something even worse.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, on XY, or no, XX, that was what it was called. On XX, they had this woman who was trying to figure out what happened. So she was in maybe a friends with benefits, but not having had sex with situation with the guy, or she was dating him or something. And they both went to a party. And she, I think, they said they would have sex later that night, and she ended up not going with him and going with a bunch of other her friends instead. But told him, we'll do it another day. And then he never called her back. and she retells this anecdote, and all of the Herodins, all of the women who are the crabs in a bucket who don't want to see another woman have an inch or a moment of happiness in her life. They're all descend upon this and say, "Oh my God, he was so focused on getting sex from you, he wouldn't even wait." I'm like, what? No. Something about your behavior turned him off to the point where he's like, "Yeah, she says, but I'm not interested anymore."
Yeah.
And then he moved on. Okay? Because sometimes, even though you say, "I'm going to have sex with you," a guy might decline for his own reasons. It happens, and it's not because he's totally motivated by... How did they even get to that conclusion? That's what's remarkable. This guy didn't have sex with me. That means men only want one thing, sex. It's like, how?
Yes, clearly the fact that he didn't do it means that's what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
It's so bizarre. It's because women are never expected to accept rejection.
Yeah, that's true.
Not. And when it happens to them, they will do whatever to place the blame anywhere else but on themselves. And this is all that I'm reading in all of these, in every single one of these. Like, you're not willing to look in the mirror and take some, acceptance for your actions and your behaviors. You know what I mean? Yeah. Some women are just so unpleasant to be around, and they don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is the case, and again, I really don't think it was the fact that he really wanted to have sex that he didn't have sex with her.
Yeah.
Like, I think that doesn't work, but I think you're exactly right. It's a
little contradictory there.
It's a desire to avoid feeling rejected, and for whatever reason, that made sense. You know, personally, the illogic would have caused me pain, but maybe the rejection is worse. Who knows?
But it's interesting that this is intended to be a lie. If you don't have sex right away with an HVM, you'll lose him because what you won't do, another girl will. It is true that what you won't do, another girl will, but that's not what belies this. What makes it interesting that she even brought this up is, of course, there are guys that will respond that way. If you don't have sex with them right away, they'll go find somebody. Look, if that's what their goal is, if that's what they want. There are women that are that way too. If you don't jump right into bed with them, like you go out with them a couple times and you don't try to kiss them, they think you're not interested and they move on to another guy. Right? You get friend zoned. There are people of both sexes whose primary focus in dating is sex. It doesn't determine whether they're high or low value or whatever. It's just a thing. That's what they're interested in. They're interested in that more than other things. And it's best when they find each other. Because then they all get what they want, right?
And when people who like racquetball find each other.
Yes,
that's
just
also
like
weird.
It's best if people who are into car repair find each other. Like all of that. So if you... What's really underneath this piece of advice... and calling this piece of advice a lie and all that is the idea that you should be fake to get what you want from a guy because you're interested in what you can get from him, which isn't really a very good basis for any relationship.
Okay. I think we should go to the next one.
Yep. Yes. Number 13. Attractive men are all cads and womanizers. It's better to focus on nerdy, shy guys.
Okay, wait.
So the first lie in this one is
they're not
nerdy
attractive?
and shy guys are not attractive because that's actually a trope. The shy, nerdy, hot guy, right? So it's kind of silly to even know who gives that advice. I've never heard anyone say anything that would be translatable into this.
It feels like it was written by an 11-year-old in some ways. It's like, no, this is okay. Attractive men. I'll have to be honest. Like, attractive men do often get that stereotype of being all about sex and just love him, leave him, and that kind of thing, and that they're evil or unpleasant or up to something. That's something that I have noticed that attractive men can have to deal with. So, on one hand, yeah, that's not true. But on the other hand, not nerdy shy guys aren't unattractive, and also attractive people aren't necessarily cruel or unkind either, and there are some what they call covert narcissists, so people who are shy who can be very unpleasant people when you get to know them.
Mm-hmm.
This is all just this is like the first level of, oh, don't judge something by its book. No, don't judge a book by its cover. And it's like the first, like, soup skim level of being not shallow. Yes, duh. Attractive men aren't all cads, and some nerdy shy guys aren't necessarily nice, and also nerdy shy guys can be attractive. So presumably attractive men can be attractive too, so I don't need to say that, but anyway, it feels like she's like struggling with the first steps towards not being totally shallow. That's why I said it feels like it's written by an 11-year-old who still believes in unicorns.
Yeah. It's really kind of sad. I have to wonder who this woman is hanging out with that she has heard this advice. Because like I've heard,
she's making it up. Honestly.
I've heard bitchy women say all men are assholes, right? That I've heard. But I haven't necessarily, and I've heard people say that being pretty can make a girl a bitch. Like, and I've heard that from more women than men, by the way. But because, like she gets everything easy, so she just never learns to accommodate other people. That kind of being a bitch. But I suppose it could translate into guys. It's just nobody's come along and said, hey, you know, that guy's attractive, you shouldn't hang out with him because he's probably going to be an asshole. Usually, being attractive is not how guys get things. Even if they are attractive, they still grow up learning that they have to accommodate other people because they can't just use I'm attractive, give me things, do things for me, and like me as an argument. Whereas girls are raised to expect that if they get a positive response to how they look, that will translate into people being nicer to them and how they're treated and everything. And so they do have more of a tendency, if they don't have anybody around them that keeps them grounded in reality, they do have more of a tendency to be an asshole. So this is projection.
Yeah, it sounds like she she went for a couple of guys who might have been out of her league and she got rejected, and so it sounds like cope. This is all cope. You know what I mean? Sorry, lady, you might just be average at best, okay? And that's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But stop swinging out of your league and expecting to hit a home run. It's just not going to happen unless your personality is amazing, and we can already tell that's not the case here, lady. So,
So I have a question from the chat that probably should be addressed. Do ugly/homely women get treated worse? And the answer is yes and no. People kind of kowtow to pretty girls in a lot of ways. But it doesn't necessarily mean they shit on ugly women the way that they do on like socially rejected men. And the way I would describe it is this. You've heard the term social ladder, right? So there are women on the bottom rung of the social ladder. But underneath that rung, there are 2 other levels of existence that are not even on the social ladder. And those are primarily occupied by men. The top of those 2 levels has some women who are so profoundly unattractive for one reason or another that they actually can get the kind of treatment that is usually reserved for men who are social rejects. The next level down has 0 women. And I've seen this in action because I have always been kind of a nerd and I've always hung out with nerds, and even though I was never on either of those parts of the social spectrum, I knew what the people that I was friends with that were in those parts of the social spectrum, I knew what they were experiencing because I was the kind of person they could talk to about it. And it's nothing like what men experience. What socially rejected women experience is social rejection light in comparison.
Yeah.
So I guess if that helps to understand. So they do get women who are at the top of the social ladder aren't necessarily all there because they're pretty either. There were girls I've known, growing up that were there because they were just that likable. They were kind to everybody, or they were fun to be around, or they knew all the good games to play, or whatever. They managed to find concert tickets to everything, and people would ask them, how do I get this, and stuff like that. It was not necessarily always just the hot chicks, right? And then there were hot chicks that were on the lower end of the social ladder because they were cunts. And if you're a cunt to enough people, they don't want to be around you. But they would fall a lot lower if they were less attractive. Because if you're a cunt and you're ugly, then you pretty much have no redeeming qualities and nobody wants to be around you. And that's that way no matter what sex you are. Moving on to number 15, because we did number 14 last week. It says, no man is perfect. This is supposed to be a lie. No man is perfect. You have to work hard to help him reach his potential. Nobody is perfect, but this is an excuse to manipulate the other person, to turn your partner into a project. Women who have to turn their partner into a project are automatically failing at their relationships right then and there when they start doing that shit. You fell in love with guy A. You decided guy A was the guy you wanted to be with. Why are you trying to turn him into guy B?
Right. Right. But on the same, well, probably on the other hand, you know, women don't tend to want to build anything with someone. They want a man to come established, like Ken out of a box, right? Just all the parts are there, everything's there, and you're just the Barbie, and you show up, and everything's perfect in your plastic fucking world. That's not how life is. You know what I mean? If you love someone, then why wouldn't you want to help him reach his full potential? What the fuck is wrong with that? Am I wrong?
No, the idea of learning and growing together and becoming more compatible over time, that's not wrong. It's just, what I've noticed is you have, like the articles in Cosmo, where there's literally been articles in Cosmopolitan magazine advising women to train their men using dog training techniques.
Oh my.
Right? So in a relationship, you establish expectations and boundaries with each other, right? If it really, really bothers you that your partner leaves his underwear on the floor, that's one that I hear all the time, a complaint. I've never met anybody that just leaves their underwear on the floor. Besides me, I do that sometimes. But if your guy leaves his underwear on the floor and you just hate that, you can talk about it. But you also have to think about the fact that, why is it happening? Is he exhausted? Has he been working really hard? Is there not a hamper in the bedroom? That kind of thing. And you work on what you want and what you can tolerate. And maybe the boundary needs to change, or the standard needs to change, in that you have to treat this like it's not that big of a deal. Consider the possibility that a pair of underwear on the bedroom floor isn't going to burn the house down.
Right.
And you can always say, hey, can you put that in the hamper so I don't have to bend over to get it, 'cause it's yours. Or even better, like at my house, we both do laundry different days. There's it's better if both partners know how to do that stuff, because sometimes people travel for work, and I don't want my husband to be without laundry if I'm gone for 2 weeks for a convention or something, right? So he has to know how to do that stuff at least then. And it's just, instead of having those kind of, you learn and you grow together and you establish what you can tolerate in each other, and you establish what you want from each other, and you collaborate and cooperate and compromise. Like here we have, well, no, let's train your man like a dog and use dog training methods, but expect him to still treat you like a human being and act like a human being.
Right.
Well, and the other thing is that I don't think they really do use dog training methods, because praise and rewards figure big into dog training. Imagine that they don't, and the funny thing is that, you could just say that in a different way, express gratitude and thanks when he does things that you appreciate, and give back. And that you could completely remove the unsavory aspects of that advice.
Yeah. It's really, really easy to, get cooperation and compromise with people if you are diplomatic. But dog training, a lot of the dog training thing is basically about tricking the guy into changing. And they come up with, some of these articles I've seen have been like, how to make him get rid of the ugly shirt, which again, maybe I might be the guy in my relationship. I have an ugly shirt. It's older than my son. And my son's going to be 23 in February. And it actually matters to me because it's from a business that is owned by a friend of my family. So I'm going to keep the ugly shirt, damn it. But my husband doesn't complain about it because he doesn't act like a woman. So,
Yeah.
so there you go. So we are looking at number 16. Don't take it personally if a man doesn't want to add you in to his social media. Some guys just like privacy. This is a lie.
Yeah. Hell.
Like, what?
My man won't even
have social media.
My man won't even respond to me on social media.
I have family that literally will not use any social media. They don't have Facebook. They don't have Twitter. They don't have any of that. They won't use it because it just eats too much of their time. They're busy doing other things they would rather do instead. What if you don't create social media to add a girl to your social media and she gets mad because she read that this guys don't need privacy?
Actually, okay, let me put it this way. My husband, Jonathan, he does not use social media.
He's busy.
No, it goes even deeper than that, and some people might find this insulting. Like, I asked him, like, why don't you post on forums? This was even before, like, Facebook and Twitter and all of this other stuff, and he's like, yeah, that stuff's for women.
Well, that's not insulting.
And he does not want to spend any time in a forum that's exclusively about nattering or gossiping.
Yeah.
So I don't know what kind of guys they're going after, but there may be some guys who look at that and is like, yeah, that I just on a fundamental level, that doesn't appeal to me as a man.
Yeah.
And it doesn't appeal to me to put up pictures of of my food and be like, oh wow, look at this meal I'm about to eat, or pictures of me flexing or any of that crap. Like, it just doesn't appeal to him. It just for whatever reason.
Well, social media, it's an attention grab, and that's all it is.
It's vanity, and it's also gossiping and social aggression.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of men who are probably just not interested in it, and they've just, I guess high value men have time for social media and are, I guess this will be insulting, and are feminine enough to appreciate it. And I'm not talking about guys who that's part of their job.
Yeah.
But like that will enjoy all this envy and oh, look at my life, it's better than your life, and all this social posturing and relational aggression that social media really captures. So that must be a man who doesn't like any of that and just like, I don't have time for it and it doesn't appeal to me because I'm a man. I guess that's not a high value man according to this list.
So one of the things that I think is interesting about this is it's actually an entitlement to not just his time and his space, but being his face. This is basically a demand that your guy announce to the world that he is with you. So being used as his trophy, or a right to use him as your trophy. Social media, I think Brian said, and I think he's kind of right, social media is gamified by women. And I don't remember, he actually said a specific thing for women, like video games for women or whatever, but it is gamified by women.
Call of Duty for women.
Yeah, like Call of Duty for women. And there is a degree to which it is, because social media is about social influence. Even if it's just within a sphere of social influence that's like 10 people, your immediate family and your cousins, or some people you went to school with, or whatever, it still is. It's largely about social influence, because in terms of socializing and enjoying your interaction and engagement with people, that's a more personal thing that you generally try to do in person. And you can use social media to keep up with people. You can use social media as a form of communication and information dissemination and stuff like that. But it all boils down to social influence one way or another. And social influence is the sphere of women in terms of interest. Like, men can be very socially influential, but a lot of times that's not the underlying goal of whatever it is they did that was socially influential. You know, unless that you're talking about movie stars and people like that. Like the guy that works at the muffler place down the street, if he has a Facebook page, it's not usually because he's decided that he wants other people to adopt ideas that he's talking about, or that he wants to persuade people of any kind of, you know, like, this is better than that, or any of that. And it's not that he necessarily is doing it to show off, look how great I am and look how great my life is. It might just be to keep a connection with, you know, my cousin Bob lives in California and we can talk for free on Facebook. Whereas if we pay for phones, it costs money. You know, just stupid stuff like that. Or I can immediately see what's going on at Bob's Christmas party because his wife posted pictures, or he posted pictures. Whereas if he sends me pictures, it's going to take a couple days to get to my house. Just like email replaces snail mail. But in doing stuff like that, why would he necessarily add a girl he just started dating to his social media? If he's not in a committed relationship and his social media is his way of keeping in touch with people that he's very close to, he might not add you because you haven't reached that level of relationship with him yet. And he doesn't want to communicate to people that you have, only for things to fall apart and then have to explain to everybody that that was only temporary.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then there's the other thing. He just might not have thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that might not be the first thing that's on his mind. How can I show everybody else my relationship isn't necessarily how guys' brains works. That's how women think.
Right. And or I don't know if you brought this up. I'm sorry, but
it's okay.
It might be his social media might be business related.
Yeah.
And therefore not available for all the floozies in his life. Sorry.
But no, the way you have successful relationships by men is to presume bad faith in every single one of their actions.
Right.
I was just speaking of presuming bad faith, I think we've gone through what? 1, 2, 5, and it's like
it's
took us an
8:30.
hour. We gotta pick up the pace.
Let's see. Number 17. A lot of good men are, quote, intimidated, end quote, by a successful woman. So you should always make sure to downplay your accomplishments.
That's a lie.
Like, now this is one that I actually have had other women try to tell me, and it's such bullshit. Yeah. I like, every guy in my family brags on his wife. Everybody that I know that is married talks about how great his wife is. You know, and it's part of it is, you know, they're proud to have attracted a partner that they admire, and that other people might admire. And, you know, you brag about your partner because you're bragging about how attractive you are, right? But the other end of it is, like, most of the men I know are excited about their wives' success, just like women, or should be at least, excited about their husband's success.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something good happened for my husband or my wife, something wonderful that they accomplished, that, you know, there's a great accomplishment there, and I was there for it, and you know, maybe my encouragement helped. It's like, that's a thing to celebrate. But for some reason, this myth actually does get spread by women. I've never had a guy say it to me. Don't let your guy know you're really good at something, because then he won't want to be around. Don't beat him at chess or checkers or, you know, video games, or don't do better than he does, or he won't want to be around you anymore. No, I've never ever heard that from a guy. Heard the opposite.
Well, I think maybe it's because, like, a lot of guys expect women to want them to be more accomplished, or they feel like the relationship might be over.
Yeah.
So that may be true. But it's also like an insecurity. Because, for example, once she makes more money than the man, often the relationship is going to end in divorce. And men know that. And they know that they're judged by not being more accomplished than the women in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Probably if you just left it up to men, they would be perfectly happy to be proud of the women in their lives. Although there's a certain amount of wanting to protect and provide that I think all men have. So there's that as well. But if you don't make it like an issue, then it might not be an issue. I just like we might have to do three shows on this.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it is possible that guys could be concerned, could become insecure about, is she still going to love me if I don't keep up with her? But I think even then, like, I haven't heard guys advise me to dumb myself down or nerf my accomplishments or capability to keep a guy. I have had women give me that advice. And what I've understood from guys is, don't dumb yourself down, don't nerf your accomplishments, but whatever you have and whatever you achieve and everything, don't be an asshole about it either. Share your joy and be an appreciative partner and recognize his accomplishments too.
Right. Exactly. Like, a good partner would celebrate your accomplishments with you. Again, women are the only ones telling you to downplay your accomplishments. But now there's nothing wrong with being, being happy or, being just, being happy about your successfulness. But again, I think sometimes it crosses a line where it's kind of like some women might tend to brag a little bit much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and don't be vainglorious.
Celebrate it
and relationship into a competition.
First rule in a successful relationship is don't be an asshole to the person you're in a relationship with.
Right.
It's okay to be an asshole to other people on their behalf if other people are trying to abuse them, but don't be an asshole to the person you're in a relationship with.
I know I shouldn't have done this. I went ahead. I'm really looking forward to number 24.
Okay, number 24. We're on number 18.
Okay.
Focusing on your education over your relationship is stupid because your degrees won't keep you warm at night. Who the fuck doesn't understand how you pay your heating bill?
Okay. Well, it's true. Like, why is everything a zero-sum game here?
This is a really loaded one, too, because you think about it, what they're basically saying is, if you focus on your education, you won't get a man, right? That will keep you warm at night, warm your bed at night. And you clearly won't get a high-value man that's going to pay your heating bill either. And it's dumb because the hot librarian and the hot nerdy girl trope are huge. So obviously, if you're focusing on your education, first of all, you don't have to either or your relationship. You ask your guy to help you study. He will. You can guarantee he will.
Quote unquote study.
Yeah. Well, even if you're in a relationship with somebody and you are genuinely invested in their welfare, you want them to be happy, you want to be happy together, you want to be successful together, so you want them to be successful. You might interrupt the studying a little bit with a makeout session, but you're still going to do what you can to help them succeed at their endeavors too. So, when my husband was studying anatomy and physiology, we studied anatomy and physiology both ways. Yes, we had breaks, makeout sessions and stuff, but I also quizzed him on everything that he was going to have to memorize for his test. And I think, when I was in college and I was dating while I was in college, I studied with guys that were not taking the same coursework as I was. I was taking anatomy and physiology, and I studied with a guy who was in the police academy. We helped each other with our work. We quizzed each other. We helped with projects and stuff that we had to do. That's what you do. But this is like one of those. There's a meme for Twitter that has monkey in the water face palming, and it says, when there's just so much wrong with the tweet that you don't even know where to begin to tear it down, that's this talking point.
Yeah. See, I think this is just, again, it's a little bit subversive because there's a couple of ways to take this, right? Focusing on your education over your relationship. I think that's kind of assuming that you have both at the same time, right? That's not necessarily the case. Now, what I will say is that it is true in the sense that, you're not your focus on your education is fine, but that's not what's going to land you a husband. And if you think that it is, it's a fool's game. Now, what I was always told from my grandmothers was that you go to college to find a husband. And
you get your MRS degree?
Yeah, well, yes, but there's nothing wrong with getting an education and focusing on that. And just, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to then forego your relationship or, choose one over the other. But this idea that I'm going to get this PhD and I'm going to have all these degrees. Men don't care about that. It's not intimidating to them in the slightest, because at the end of the day, you're trying to get him to marry you. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter. Like, if he cares about it, then fine. If he doesn't, then what the fuck are your degrees gonna do for you? Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in terms of getting a guy, no, it's probably net neutral, as long as you're not expecting him to be more educated than you. But here's the thing that maybe you guys didn't cover. If you are already setting the stage to focus on something other than your relationship, to make something else the center of your life, presuming that this guy is the one that you're actually serious about, then this is going to be your entire life, because you're going to focus on your education, then you're going to focus on your work, preferentially over him. And, that really you should ask yourself, is that a relationship you would want to be in with a guy? Would you want to be in a relationship with a man who says, no, work comes first? And not just because it has to, but because I prefer it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. But I'm going to be a taskmaster.
Number 19. Most guys know their girlfriend has a sexual past, so it's okay to discuss it with him in a relationship. Said nobody ever.
Geez, if you're not willing to discuss it, you must.
Here's the dumb thing. All right, this is another false dichotomy, because it's presented in a way that makes it sound like either you talk about your entire sexual past and discuss it with him in a relationship, or you clam up and say nothing, right? And the truth is if there is relevance and a reason to disclose something, you shouldn't hide it. Like, you have had an experience that is going to occasionally cause you to have nightmares, and he should know that if you wake up yelling because of that, it's not his fault, right? Or you have scars, that you have to show, that you have to explain, or you have an STD, or you have a standard that you created because of a past experience. Like, those are things, both sexes should be able to disclose those things without being judged as unloading a bunch of baggage on their partner. But if you feel like, while you're dating a guy, you should just ad nauseum go through and tell him about every relationship you've ever had, you have problems and you shouldn't be dating.
Yeah. These, again, therapists, not men, therapists. These women, they bring their past trauma into their present relationships, and they expect somehow to have a better future. It doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? If if your past is that haunting you still to this day while you're in a new relationship, maybe you should just save him some headaches and some time and go talk to someone who is professionally licensed to tell you how to deal with these things in a normal manner, because unloading onto every guy that you meet is not healing. It's not going to fix anything. You're just going to drag your baggage from one guy on to the next. And who wants to settle down with something like that? Only another damaged person would want to take on all of your baggage, because they probably got a boatload of it as well. You know?
Well, yeah, I don't think that he's in this one, because I've read a little bit of ways. I don't think she's talking about sexual trauma or like other stuff like that, if that's what you guys are referring to. Oh no.
No, I'm referring to, just going through and because there are girls that'll do this. They'll sit down on a date with a guy and they will tell him about every ex-boyfriend they have ever had, and what they liked about him and what they didn't like about him, and what they carried on, what baggage basically they've carried on to the relationship, although they don't know that's what they're doing.
Yeah, and
because there is a point
flag
in this about trauma, but it's not.
If she's dated villains, if every single guy that she's dated is a villain, this is interesting because I think there was I have an anecdote about this as well. There was one man who thought that she just had a really bad string of luck, and then he met her exes after she had accused him of being abusive when he wasn't.
Yeah.
And then he met one of her exes, and he found out that he was actually a nice guy. And that she just was a serial false accuser. So if she starts bringing up all of the evil villains in her past, which why would you do that? But regardless, it's a red flag. Either you are an evil villain, or it's quite likely that she's a false accuser. If she has like a whole history of being attracted to men who are bad, either that's what she's attracted to, and I don't know, maybe you should check and make sure that you don't have a volcano, like a lair under a volcano, and like a cat that you stroke in a black leather chair. just do a spot check on whether or not you're the baddie. Either that, or consider that might be a serial false accuser, unless she's like, yeah, I dated abusers, then I got some therapy, and I really looked hard at my choices in my life, and I did some work on myself, and I discovered this, that, and the other thing, and I'm trying to, fold over a new leaf. But if she's got like a series of horror stories and no self-introspection somewhere in there, that is a huge red flag. Or like I said,
in particular, if her horror stories are her ex-boyfriends or ex-girlfriends, like that is bad. Like, you could use me as an example in this. I have a series of horror stories. Most of them are not people that I dated. Like, I had one guy that I dated that over time I decided was more of a horror story, and and walking away was difficult because it's very hard to break up with someone that doesn't acknowledge that you've broken up after you say this is over. And that was the male feminist I dated. But most of the people who have done abusive things to me were never my friends. They weren't people I was close to. One female friend, and a lot of people who were just people that I knew that turned out to be the reason we weren't friends was because they were horrible people. And like that, you can, and then, after learning about the causes of my not enforcing my boundaries, and learning how to do that better, I stopped having those horror stories, right? But if you've got somebody that, like, they've got a series of people that they were intimate with, that they never could figure out this person is bad, or that, like in some cases they're telling you their exes are all bad, and they're not. That's different entirely. That's really dangerous. That's a person who either has no ability to judge other people's character and no interest in developing it, or blames other people for her shortcomings and her bad behavior after the fact, which is even more dangerous. Having sex, number 20. Having sex without a condom is more intimate and means he trusts you. Okay, said no one ever. I'm sorry, but, like, I honestly don't know anybody that would give this advice. Maybe back in the 50s people were saying stuff like that. I don't know. But certainly after, I want to say 1984, 1985, the actual advice people were given was don't have sex without a condom because STDs are becoming more common. And, I mean, that's pretty simple advice. Like, who gives that kind of advice? Don't let a chick talk you into having sex without a condom because she thinks you don't trust her if you wear one. That's if that's a red flag. If she starts telling you that bullshit, leave.
Yeah, that's trash.
Yep. Yeah, but I mean, it might mean that he does indeed trust you. I'm trying to understand the context in which this became a piece of advice on this list.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was, I'm having a little bit of trouble with a lot of that, but this one in particular. Yeah, don't do that. Maybe when you are in a committed relationship and after you've gotten like STD tests and all of that, maybe start having sex without a condom.
If you wanna have babies.
Yes.
Or if you're not on birth control, because
Yeah. I personally, the only actual way to keep pregnancy from happening is if you're going to have sex. The only other way to keep pregnancy from happening is to keep semen out. It's better for both sexes if condoms are used and another form of birth control is used as backup to the condom.
Yeah.
Like, there isn't anything out there right now that I would say would make a better primary form of birth control than a condom. And that includes hormonal birth control and even getting your tubes tied or having a vasectomy, because occasionally there are screw-ups with those. So, like, everything else should be back up to condom use, or you should be willing to become parents.
Yeah. So again, this one is kind of true because, yes, having sex without a condom is more intimate and it should mean that he trusts you. I just hope that he can.
yeah. Okay.
Number 21, telling a guy about your sexual trauma will bring you closer together.
Ooh.
It's
Maybe, depending on why and how you have that discussion. If you have an emotional barrier to intimacy with him, and you're having to explain it, I'm doing XYZ because this happened, it's not your fault, and I'm working on it with therapist Y, or I'm dealing with it in this way. That's one thing. But if you're just vomiting your trauma, your past trauma on him for the sake of using him as an emotional tampon, that's not going to bring you closer together. So, and and the other end of it is, if you're going to talk to a guy about your past traumas, be ready to listen to his.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Because
if you can't handle that thought, then yep, you probably shouldn't bring it up.
Yeah, if you've got past sexual trauma as a woman, there is almost as much chance that the guy you're talking to has a similar or equal trauma that in his past that he may or may not be willing to talk about.
Mm.
You know, that's something that most women don't take into consideration.
I have another anecdote that I read from Stop Prison Rape, when it used to be actually focused on male victims, before feminists took it over and turned it into not part of Just Detention International, I think is what it was. And then they started blaming toxic masculinity, and it went downhill from there. But there was a man who experienced having been raped in prison, and his girlfriend at the time told him that she had been sexually abused by her uncle, and told him, "Oh, you can't know what it's like." And then he said, "Well, but actually this happened to me." And then she started to rage at him and call him a punk, which is basically just a word specifically meaning male rape victim in a derogatory sense. And so if you want to bring up your sexual trauma, you might find out that you're with a guy who does as well, and how are you gonna deal with that? Because the way that individual woman dealt with it was very poor, shall we say.
Yeah, and I mean, if you are willing to make it a reason you guys lean on each other for support, and, you know, build yourselves up by offering each other support, and bring yourselves closer together over that support, then yeah, actually, that would bring you closer together. But if you're not willing to put the emotional labor into your relationship that you're asking your partner to put into your relationship, then there isn't jack shit you can do to bring yourselves closer together. So it is a lie that to say that telling your guy about your sexual trauma will bring you closer together is false advice. It can, if you do it right, and if you are willing to reciprocate what you are asking him to do when you do that. But it's definitely not good advice to just say dump this on him. Number 22, it's normal not to orgasm during sex is supposed to be a lie. So here's the thing. It is normal for both sexes to sometimes not orgasm during sex. And it is in particular normal for both sexes to not orgasm during sex as they get older, or if they've never learned to take responsibility for making their own orgasms happen.
Mm-hmm.
If they expect their partner to make it happen and they don't communicate or participate or anything like that, yeah, that's not abnormal. And there's nothing weird about you or necessarily wrong with your partner if sometimes when you're having sex you don't orgasm. It's something that you can change. And if you want to be in a situation where you orgasm every time you're having sex, and you want to make that your goal, which there's nothing wrong with making that your goal, then you figure out what's the holdup and fix it. Like, that's it. But that advice is kind of, again, I don't think I've really heard that from men. I've heard that advice from women.
Yeah, like a lot of women don't achieve orgasm from intercourse itself. Like, I was that woman until very recently. Thank you very much. But not to get too personal, but yeah, no. And having a relationship where you actually love the other person, it does intensify the experience. You know what I mean? When you can just completely release, and I think that's what is holding a lot of women back from a natural orgasm. They just can't release whatever it is in their mind. They can't just be in the moment and appreciate and accept and just be in the moment of what's happening. So of course it just gets lost on them because it's more performative. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they're trying to attract that high value man, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but
or whatever that means. But I just wanted to say there was some comedian who pointed out to women that it's not you ladies, it's the filthy thoughts in our heads that get us off. And the reason why I think men are more likely is because they take more responsibility for their own pleasure than women do. And like it's I don't know what the heck this kind of guy this woman is going for. Probably therapist, sex god, multimillionaire with no expectations.
Yeah.
Like okay, good luck with finding your unicorn. And also, isn't really a man because she doesn't like men. This is what's really hilarious about this.
Yeah,
I
she
hate
clearly
unicorns.
doesn't like men.
Unicorns are smelly, and glitter is awful. It's rough and coarse and gets everywhere. I just really loathe unicorns. But I hope God gives me one to fix my life, because that's the only thing that'll do it. It's like you not only do you want a mythical beast, you don't even like the mythical beast that you want.
Right.
What is your... There's so many levels of self-fuckery or self-ownage in this.
And of course, after a while in a relationship, with this guy that you're gonna treat like shit because you don't love him, he's gonna come into the house and tell you there's a unicorn in the garden. But only James Thurber fans are going to understand what I just said.
Well, I understood it because I read the story.
Yeah,
I did.
So number 23, you can learn to love a guy you're not attracted to. I suppose, yeah, that's fitting for arranged marriages. That maybe women who are in arranged marriages got that advice, but I didn't.
I don't know. I just the fucking attitude. The goal of this bitch. You can learn to love a guy you're not Yes, you can. In the same way that he's got to learn to deal with your fucking attitude. You know what I mean? Like, come on. It goes both ways. You have to stop this. Like, first, and hold up. Let's. I'm putting the cart before the horse here. You chose this motherfucker. Like, you chose him, and now you mad because you realize down the line you're not really attracted to him. Well, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? Like, this is the making of your own doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, presumably it's because he's a high value man in some other way, but she doesn't find him attractive. Which, if she actually cared about her own opinion, which is why I say this is so many levels of self-ownage. If she actually cared about her own opinion, this wouldn't be a high-value man.
Right.
Because she's not attracted to him. And that doesn't mean that he isn't a high-value man to another woman who is attracted to him.
Right.
But because she doesn't value her own individual opinion, he's a high-value man because someone else said it.
Exactly, because she's constantly comparing herself and her situation to the next one, to what she wants to level up to. She's constantly comparing, and nothing's ever going to be good enough because she's always got her eyes out for number one.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that if she ever encounters a woman who's actually happy with her partner, oh boy, like that would be the ultimate, being outclassed, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And that's the funny thing is that the only difference between her and that woman would be the fact that the woman actually likes men.
No, clearly that woman is a witch and she should burn her.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my god. But the thing that bugs me about
unicorn. She must be a witch.
Yeah. The thing that bugs me about this is she's attributing this advice to somebody. She's obviously somebody. She feels that somebody somewhere along the line told her that she should learn to love a guy she's not attracted to. So then the question becomes why? Does she know what love is?
Right.
And is she actually? This is why I asked at the beginning, in the opener, would she be able to whether she'd be able to identify it or not? Does she even know that she's alone? Because in a relationship like that, you would still be alone. If you don't love the person you're with, you might be in the room with them, you might live with them, you might be financially bound to them, but you're alone. And that's sad. That's sadder than never having a partner at all. To be, for two reasons. Of course, obviously, the first one is the individual in that situation is unhappy because they're bound to somebody that they don't love and they're not attracted to. But the person that they've tied up with someone who doesn't love them and isn't attracted to them is suffering too. So this idea that this advice was given, whoever gave her that advice is a class A dipshit. But at the other end of it, what is she asking a partner to do when she tells him he's not allowed to have any standards and he's not allowed to have any expectations of things like loyalty and consideration? He has to act as her emotional tampon, and
without being undesirable to her,
right,
which that's a tall order for a guy.
He has to be perfect. But she doesn't have to even be good. She doesn't even have to get good, even though she's gamifying relationships.
She's literally asking for God. Like, Hannah, this woman is literally asking for God. She's literally asking for a man who can make a weight that he couldn't lift, but also lift that weight.
Yeah. But
because
the thing is, she's asking him to learn to love a woman he's not attracted to be invested in her welfare. So she obviously doesn't think this is a lie. She just doesn't think she should have to do it.
Right.
No. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, because they want the high value man who has no stand or can't hold women to any standards.
Right. And it goes back to what I said last week. A lot of these women have just grown up with this inflated sense of self. Like they're given this messaging throughout their entire lifetime that they are the princess. They are everything. They're good. They're great. They can do anything they want. And they really don't understand their actual value.
Yeah.
In the sexual marketplace, and they just don't understand that. I like that guy, but that guy might not like me. Well, maybe you should look at yourself, because maybe everything that you've been told about I'm such a bad bitch is not really true. And that's not necessarily the kind of attitude that's going to attract any guy or that you find of high value.
Or a guy that you want to be around with at all.
Yeah.
But she seems to want a guy who, like I said, a high value man who has no ability to actually set any standards, so that she has nothing that she has to live up to. Because that's the other thing. The nothing in all of this, and most of the writing from Female Dating Strategy, is about being the kind of woman a high value man, whatever that means, or even just a man, because I don't think these women are actually getting a man at all, would want. Like, there's no consideration. Everything is about shaming whatever the man would want in the relationship and not giving it any credence. From what I've seen of the Female Dating Strategy forum in general.
There's one particular type of writing, one particular type of article that I have yet to find on the Female Dating Strategy website. That would be the success story. I haven't spotted one yet.
That would be the Female Dating Strategy's unicorn. It's actually really hilarious, but there are probably more women on Female Dating Strategy listening to Female Dating Strategy, and you're exactly right. There's no success stories. These women are not happy. They don't have relationships, and yet on this channel, like the other three of us talking, we're all in a relationship. In some cases, we're desperately seeking to be in the same country with the person we're in love with, which I won't say anything more about that, but we're all in a relationship that we appreciate and that we're happy in, and we love the person we're with. You'd think if a woman really wants to have a happy life or actually be successful in her relationships, she would be tuning into this channel, not being one of the how many women are Female Dating Strategy? You know, how many of them are there? Like a couple 100,000?
Yeah, there seems to be a pretty big user base in the subreddit. For
why
this
would
topic.
they be there listening to or reading all of this advice, which basically amounts to personal failure?
Yeah.
In whatever thing that they want. I mean, does it matter? High value man. You know what a high value man is? A high value man is the man that you smile whenever you come into the house and you see him. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all they are. And
the one is the one that you value.
Yeah, it's the one that you personally value. You know,
Yeah.
you're personally attracted to. You personally love the way they approach the world. They make you happy. They aren't able to make you a happy person, but they make you happy by their presence. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they care about you and they go out of their way. That's a high value man. Okay? And when you find someone like that, it makes your life better. It doesn't fix everything in your life, but it makes your life a little easier, or maybe a lot easier. And there's such a big difference between having that in your life and not, that it is its own success, in my opinion. So these women, in going to female dating strategy, are forgoing the love and happiness they could have. And part of that is being able to let it into your life. Like you were talking about that, Lauren, about, sexual pleasure. Well, it also happens, it's also about emotional and, pleasure too. They are not allowing that into their lives. They are not taking responsibility for the very basic level of just liking men and kicking out all of the toxic rhetoric that makes it difficult to like and trust men. You just kick it out of your life, and immediately your life is significantly improved. You're a happier person. And they are all losers. Like you're saying, Anna, there's no success stories. They're all miserable losers. And yet they have hundreds of thousands of women who flock to this site to continue to be miserable losers.
It's very
unhappy.
much like the people who ignore advice on how to earn a living, how to be able to afford the home they want, budget carefully, and successfully create an economic situation for yourself where you're not hurting for resources, and you also have things, at least some of the things you want, so you're comfortable, right? They ignore that, but they follow some get-rich-quick guru whose only success is in how many people who have bought his book on how to get rich quick, right? And so his advice has never really been tested. But if they just listen enough to the advice without even trying it, they might get rich suddenly. And they don't have to do anything to achieve that. Whereas the path of proper budgeting and working hard and, making your decisions, deciding I want this and not that and that kind of thing, that's work. It takes effort and mental work and emotional labor and all of those things. And so it's not the lazy person's path. And I think a lot of times when you look at this type of advice, like this dating forum, the dating forums for pickup artists in general, a lot of it, and I'm not talking about the guys that advise you to improve yourself and do things to gain confidence and do a better job identifying somebody that will be of better interest to you and you'll be of better interest to them. But the ones that are like, yes, you can use these tricks to trick somebody into wanting to have a relationship with you, like that's all just lazy people who want shortcuts to not happiness, but the picture of success and the sense of satisfaction. But you don't really get either of those unless you discover that happiness is not a feeling but an attitude, and you bring it from inside yourself. And you have to work at it. It's not something that just falls on you. Happiness doesn't fall on people, right?
Yeah, it's something you have to choose and work at.
Yeah.
But that kind of thing is an anathema to them because simultaneous with not liking men, they apparently think men can fix all of their problems in their life.
Yeah.
which
And
is just bizarre.
yeah, and
Bizarre.
it's work. It's something that they actually have to physically go and do. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
It's sad. But that brings us kind of to our next point. Here they are, right? They want all of these things. They want it all immediately. They don't want to have to work for it. They want it handed to them, or they want it to fall into their lap because they used the right hack, right? The right trick to hack men and get into the. But you have to give guys a chance is a lie. If you want a relationship with someone, you have to give them a chance. Oh, no, that's a lie. Nobody should have to give anyone a chance. How the heck are you supposed to find out if you like someone if you don't give them a chance?
No, Hannah. I think this is an excellent piece of advice for these ladies. Yeah, don't give men a chance. Don't even bother. Just stop.
They are better off.
Go get yourself another cat. Actually, don't get yourself another cat because I feel
your
bad
cat
for the
probably
cat.
hates you too.
Yeah. Go get yourself another portrait or another donut or something. I don't know.
Get a fish.
Something
at least,
other that isn't living.
At least your relationship with your fish just involves you dropping those stupid little fish flakes into the water and periodically cleaning the tank. Like that, it's hard to.
That.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to emotionally damage a fish.
Man, oh man, like wow. I want a high value man who's gonna fix my life. A man who didn't need a woman to become successful, doesn't need a woman at all for anything. And I'm just a complete schlubby mess. I have debt and I'm fat and I don't want to exercise and I've had like 300 penises inside me. And I don't there's nothing I don't want to make any effort. I don't even want to like the man. I just want him to come into my life and take my sad sack ass and give me a chance. I'm like, what? But I don't want to give him a chance. He has to be.
And he must have no standards.
This isn't dating advice. This is offloading everything that you have failed at in your life onto a man, and then saying, "I'm strong and independent."
No, this is exactly the thinking that got your lonely ass where you are now.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's it.
I refuse to take responsibility. The list.
Yes. Yeah. And you know what you were saying about how many women are actually reading. Well, look, misery loves company.
Well, it certainly does. It certainly does. Wow.
And apparently, this company loves misery.
Okay, it just blows my mind because you got 100,000 women reading these recipes for failure. They're not here listening to us. Maybe if they actually implemented some of the stuff that we talk about in their lives, they may not end up with that appalling sociopath in 50 Shades of Grey. A repulsive, like, I read the first couple chapters. I'm like, I must be missing a gene, or like some chromosomes on the X. On both of my X chromosomes, or some of those alleles or whatever the hell they are. I must be missing some because this guy is fucking repulsive. Like 100% absolutely repulsive man. And this is what they're jilling off to in movie theaters. Like anyway, you may not get that repulsive reptilian sociopath loser in 50 Shades of Grey, but you might get an actual nice guy, a genuinely good guy, kind, who's fun, you find funny and entertaining, and you have a good time with, and you work on and creating a life together. Someone a little bit, maybe he's not high value male, but he's somebody who makes you happy, which, frankly, it doesn't make you a happy person, but he's somebody who makes you happy. Frankly, that's worth a hell of a lot more, considering the misery in the world today than a bunch of hollow bucks, shall we say?
You could spend your retirement, your old age, with your partner that you aren't required to like and aren't required to love, and don't actually really care about, who doesn't really think much of you because he's not allowed to have standards, and therefore he can't respect or honor you because that would require for him to have standards too, right? And also only has sex with you with the idea of making you orgasm and not because you want to be intimate together, like that, all that stuff, right? Because and somehow he picked your sorry ass. You could sit around in your piles of money in your old age and ignore each other, or you could have the enjoyment of sitting on the couch together, watching something that you're both entertained by, laughing at it together, sharing the humor and maybe a cup of hot chocolate, and being happy. Which pathway do you really want to pick? What are you going to do when you're 80? What are you going to do when you're 90? You going to live that long?
That's the other thing. Like, the women at Female Dating Strategy, there has been an increase, and this is really morbid, but there has been a huge increase in not just men, but also women who die and nobody knows.
Right.
Like they aren't actually, their bodies aren't found for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Because they're so isolated. Yeah, that's the women at Female Dating Strategy.
There's also been an increase in women having heart attacks from trying to live the way society expects men to live. And we always have the stereotype of men being the ones that have heart attacks and not women. And it's a legit stereotype. It's not, like, it didn't come out of nowhere. Well, now we have women who are trying to win the rat race, and they discover their hearts can't keep up any better than men's hearts can. And that's actually hilarious, because feminists would say that CEOs are... Actually, I would actually say that CEOs in many cases are themselves a form of the same kind of depredation on the body as a trade. Because it's very stressful to be in charge. Health casualties. You've sacrificed your personal health in order to have these achievements. And you don't always have to. I mean, there are ways to have success in your career without being that person that, like, sacrifices everything else in your life to win the rat race. You don't have to be the King Midas of your profession. You can actually enjoy a well-rounded life as long as you recognize that you don't have to be the person that wins every race. You don't have to be the person that is in charge of the company for years and years and years. And if you are in charge, you don't have to be the person that makes that job a job of long hours and constant stress. But women who have been criticizing men for this for like a century are now imitating it instead of trying to figure out, how can we make things better. It's really kind of dumb.
Well, but this 24 has, like, the reason why I was so excited to get 24, because it just really takes the cake, doesn't it?
Yeah, after all of these things, this guy is expected to bend over backwards to accommodate her shortcomings. He's not allowed to have any shortcomings himself, right? You have to give guys a chance. You can't even decide whether or not he has shortcomings. You gotta just like, no.
No personal worth that she's developed whatsoever.
So what she really needs to do is go out and get a male sex doll and attribute wealth to him, because of course she's going to build her own wealth, so she really doesn't need his wealth, right? And she can label him high value man, and he'll be everything that she has said that she wants, and all the expectations, the unspoken expectations behind these bits of so-called advice, he'll meet all of them. But there you go.
Yeah, I know. It's just I just find it astounding, because this is a whole bunch of women who want to lose at life.
Yeah. And speaking of really losing at life, it is actually 9:30 almost, and we are at number 24. I don't think we're gonna get. There's like 7 more things.
We
here.
have lost to this listicle.
The listicle.
We truly are the losers of the evening.
The listicle is too long, guys. It's just too big. We can't handle it. And we still have super chats. Yeah, we still have super chats too. So I'm gonna call it. We'll pick up in the next show, the next episode, with number 25, which I suspect, despite the typo, I think it's about marriage.
Okay, I don't even understand what she's getting at.
Yeah,
I think it's about marriage.
I think it's about the expectation of marriage.
I think it's about political maneuvering in like 15th century Renaissance Italy. That's what I think. That's my guess. But we can all make guesses.
Yes, I declare my husband the Archduke of Dayton. Just for that. But there we go. So I'm gonna take us into the super chats so that when we get done with the show and our patron only after show, I will actually have some time to spend with the Archduke of Dayton. Let's see. Going back to the beginning, we have. I think this is the first one. This is the first one I could find. Binary Eclipse gave us $5. I believe that's Australian. Said a lot of modern women treat relationships with a very mercenary attitude. Yes, they do, and it's destructive as hell, both to them and their partners. It's sad too, because you cannot cultivate happiness with a mercenary attitude. Duncan Alexander gave us, I'm not sure what Tsar is, but he gave us 70 Tsar and said, I feel a bit jaded after getting into a relationship with a woman where I put my life on hold to support her as she studied and found work, but she dropped me as soon as she was in a better situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is shitty. And both sexes do that. Women get sympathy when they complain about it. Men get treated like entitled pricks when they complain about it. But the truth is, it's rotten no matter which sex does it. Well, this one's weird. It didn't give me the name. Let me look and see if it shows in...
Is it started? I coded my
Amsong.
own?
There we go. Okay,
Yeah,
that's why. I don't know why when I try to copy it over, it doesn't like that name. Amsong
It's
gave
probably the thing on the A.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think I missed one before. No, I didn't miss one before that. Okay. Gave us $5 and said, I coded my own forum a decade ago, but that was just to see if I could. My cousin, her first husband ran several bulletin board systems back in the day, but they were all about specific things that people wanted to share information on, like collectible miniatures, Dungeons and Dragons miniatures and stuff like that, where to get them and which ones were more valuable, and they weren't, look what I had for dinner, and I like this political candidate because I'm this political party and that candidate is too, and blah blah blah. I think in a lot of ways social media ruined the internet, because now the primary direction that discussion takes on social media is either heated political debate that is often in bad faith and never concludes with anybody forming new opinions, or look what I ate for dinner last night, isn't it pretty? And not, hey, we're gonna have a party next week, would you guys like to come? Or, hey, I really like this type of collectible item, where can I get it? Or how do I fix this part of this car? Like, that stuff seems to be falling by the wayside. Kind of sucks. Bar One Studios. Let's see, is that the next one? Yes, gave us $5 and said episode/interview idea, the female voice and the male mind, talking to ASMR VAs. Get Skitty Cat, Dude That's Lewd, / Wholesome, Daisy, Benazi, etc. on. It's an interesting one. And I guess there's a lot of guys that listen to ASMR. I've actually heard from a lot of guys that they really like that. The closest thing I get is to liking ASMR is that I listen to scary stories, creepypasta. So I listen to creepypasta readers, and I particularly like if I'm trying to use it to go to sleep instead of just enjoying the stories and how campy they are and everything. I listen to the ones with the smoother voices. So there you go. That's my ASMR. And I do use it to go to sleep. But I hate the ones where they're like rattling paper and whispering, because that actually sends chills up my spine and makes me, puts me on alert. Like something's wrong. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, it just kind of depends on the person, I guess.
There's a channel that I like. It's called That Chapter, and it basically goes over like murder cases and kidnapping cases and things like that.
Yeah.
But the dude is, of course, his name is Mike, and he's Irish, so he's got this Irish accent.
There you go.
Like, it's so interesting to listen to him talk, but then the stories are also so, intriguing that you're involved. But yeah, I'm liking those.
Yeah, those are neat.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of different things you can find like that. But I don't know. If ASMR performers have a particular insight into the male mind, that would be interesting to talk about. Like what helps men relax and what do men like to listen to. It's a neat thing to know. And if there are men who particularly like ASMR performance that could, talk about how it helps them, or what it does for them, even if it's just, I really enjoy this. Because just having something that you really enjoy is healthy, But yeah, that would make a neat episode. It's just not something that I have researched enough or know enough about to do anytime soon. William Thomas gave us $5 and said, money to keep the lights on. I'll catch up on the show later after work. And thank you for that. Hothead Studios gave us $5 and said, honey for the badgers, and gave us little emojis to match. Derek Workman gave us $5 and said, it doesn't matter who you go to bed with, it matters who you wake up beside. And that's an interesting way to put it. Duncan Alexander gave us 35 ZAR and said, do you think her mother gave her this advice? Did it work for her? That's a good question.
Yeah.
And then Meredith G gave us $5 and said, sorry I missed the show, tip for the internet bill. I think that's everything, because I copied them from the chat as they were going because of how often, and like right now, if I look at Streamlabs, I can see 5 super chats out of all of those that I just read. Starting with the one from Amsong. So everything that I read before that one didn't show in Streamlabs for some reason. So hopefully I haven't missed any, because I was doing this from the ones I copied out of our chat, and I can't scroll back to the beginning, but because it doesn't let me, it only lets me go back so far. But just scrolling back, I don't see any that I haven't read. So with that, I think I am going to take us out of here, and we will come back. Let's see, this is the 9th, so we will come back next week. Actually, next week I may or may not have a show next week. I have to confirm something. So next episode we will come back and go over the starting with the one about you don't need titles because what's understood doesn't have to be explained. Yeah, we'll start there, and we'll finish the last 7 items on the list, and then if we have a bunch of time left over, then maybe we'll just expand on it, or we will get into another article. But with that, thanks to my 2 co-hosts for trudging through this toxic muck with me. Thanks to everybody for sticking out this particularly putrid sausage. Actually, I think we've purified the sausage by addressing what's wrong with the advice behind the advice. And thanks to everybody who works in the background to make HBR Talk happen. And good night, all.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.